and I stopped to help some people who were pretending to be broken down on the side of the road with their vehicle, and I helped one of them, let them in my vehicle, and ended up getting drugged and mugged.
On a dead straight road across the Australian Outback, a man pulls over for help and vanishes into heat and dust. 71 days later, he crawls out of a grave the desert dug for him. His name is Ricky McGee. He wakes in a shallow pit covered in branches. Shoes gone. Car gone. Water gone. The sun is a blade. He will drink from mud. He will eat whatever crawls. He will build a shelter with nothing but scrub and stubbornness, and the desert will keep asking the same question. How badly do you want to live? Welcome to Series of Survival, where we uncover the most incredible true stories of people who should have died but didn't. Today, we dive into the miraculous story of Ricky McGee, the man who was left stranded 72 days in the desert. Ricky McGee was born in the early 1970s in Victoria's quiet Gippsland region. He grew up on a dairy farm, the kind of place where mornings started before sunrise and ended after sunset. He learned how to work hard, hunt for food, and survive off the land. But when his family moved to Melbourne's suburb of Sunshine, life took a turn. City life was different, rougher, louder, and full of new temptations. Ricky's father began struggling with alcohol, and when Ricky was just a young man, his father took his own life. That loss would haunt him for years. As an adult, Ricky drifted between jobs: carpet salesman, fisherman, doorman, electrician, even a bailiff. He was a jack of all trades, but never seemed to find peace. And then came the run-ins with the law. Fights, drug charges, and even time behind bars. He wasn't proud of it, but it was part of his story. By the early 2000s, Ricky was trying to turn things around. He'd been offered a new start, a job in Port Hedland, Western Australia. A long drive through the outback, and maybe a clean slate. To understand Ricky McGee's fight for survival, you have to understand where he was stranded. The Australian Outback, a land so vast, so empty, it can swallow you whole. Daytime temperatures here can soar above 110 degrees Fahrenheit. That's over 43 degrees Celsius. But when the sun sets, the heat vanishes, dropping to freezing cold. There's no shelter, no shade, no water. The land itself becomes your enemy. Dust storms can hit without warning, turning the sky red and choking the air with sand. Even seasoned bushmen say, "You don't conquer the outback, you survive it." The outback covers more than 70% of Australia's landmass, but less than 5% of Australians actually live there. That's millions of square miles of silence. If your car breaks down or you get lost, you might not see another person for weeks. No phone signal, no traffic, just endless red dirt and horizon. Then there's the wildlife. Venomous snakes, scorpions, and wild dingoes roam the plains. Waterholes attract life, but they also attract danger. Even the smallest mistake out here, drinking contaminated water, walking too far without shade, can mean death. For most, the outback is unforgiving, but for Ricky McGee, it became home. For 71 long days. Armed with nothing but instinct and sheer will, he faced one of the harshest environments on Earth. and somehow lived to tell the story. Over the years, Ricky's story has shifted. At first, Ricky told authorities that his car had broken down on a lonely stretch of highway. He said he tried to walk for help, but got lost in the endless outback. Simple, believable. But just weeks later, his story changed. Ricky claimed he wasn't lost by accident. He said he'd picked up 3 hitchhikers, strangers on the road, and that they drugged his drink before stealing his car and leaving him for dead. Authorities couldn't find the hitchhikers. No fingerprints, no proof of a struggle, and no sign of foul play. So, naturally, people began to question everything. January 2006, Ricky is driving west, a long haul across cattle country. He picks up a couple of hitchhikers, bad decision or just bad luck, and that's the last straight memory for a while. Hours later, he wakes half buried under branches, skin on fire, mouth like paper. The car is gone. The road is a rumor. He staggers to higher ground. No landmarks, just scrub, termite mounds, and heat haze sharp enough to cut. First rule is water. Second rule is shade. Third rule, don't move in the noon kill zone. He finds a dry creek line, scratches a shallow hole where damp clay remembers rain. He waits. A spoon of brown water rises like a miracle. Day 1 ends with something worse than hunger. No plan. Before the highway, there were easy dinners and full taps, a life where doors opened when you turned the handle. The Outback doesn't care who you were last week. It only cares what you are now. Back in the creek bed, night drops like a curtain. The heat doesn't leave. Mosquitoes arrive like a storm. Morning brings a decision: stay and wait, or move and risk missing the only people who might pass within shouting distance. He follows the creek line because water draws life and life draws people. His tongue feels like it belongs to someone else. Food, the desert says, prove you want it. He pulls beetles from bark, grubs from roots, a frog slow enough to catch. Day 3. The sun blisters his lips into open wounds. He wraps his head in a torn shirt. He builds a humpy, a low shelter of branches and grass that steals back a few inches of shade. He learns the rhythm: dig for water at dawn and dusk, move only when shadows are long, never drink fast. On a ridge he hears it, the faintest rumble. A truck, he scrambles up. Arms waving, voice cracking. Nothing. Mirage or a road too far? He marks trees with fabric strips, aligns sticks into SOS. Returns to the creek line before the sky turns white hot. The desert gives him a gift that almost kills him. Rain. The creek becomes a brown ribbon. He drinks too much, too fast. His stomach revolts. Lesson learned. Days stack like stones. He counts them on a stick, then loses count. He stops trusting numbers and starts trusting habits. He eats leeches when he finds them. Protein with a price. He roasts lizards on hot rocks when the sun allows. He chews grasshoppers until the terrible taste becomes just food. The shelter collapses in a wind gust. He builds it again, stronger, lower. Everything in the Outback is a test you take twice. He sets drip traps with plastic scraps and leaves. A tin can left by someone years ago becomes a lifesaver. Night 20-something. A dingo circles, yellow eyes like coins in the dark. He talks to himself, to the shelter, to the sky. He promises he will not lie down for good. Then, footprints. Human, old but human. He follows them along the creek until they vanish into scrub. His body is lighter now. His eyes are deeper. He learns that hope is a ration. Too much and you move at the wrong hour. Too little and you stop moving at all. Another rain. He digs a wider sump, lines it with grass, lets the mud settle. The water clears. For a moment, the world is generous. He tries a new tactic. Climb a low rise each morning, scan for dust trails. He sees one, a faint smear, then the wind erases it. He sets a signal fire with green leaves for smoke. It coughs. It fails. He tries again. 71 days is a number you only understand afterwards. In the middle, there is just the next hour. On a heat-shattered afternoon, voices drift up the creek. Stockmen from a remote cattle station. He can't stand, he can crawl. He drags himself toward the sound, fingers digging, breath like sandpaper. The world tunnels and narrows to a single word. Help! They see him, shock first, then hands, then water. He is a scarecrow with a heartbeat, and he is not alone anymore. They radio for help, share food slowly, carefully. Too much too soon is another kind of death. In the clinic, fluorescent lights buzz like a different kind of insect. IV bags drip the color back into his face. The scale tells him what the mirror already did. He left a lot of himself out there. Police ask questions. Reporters ask better ones. He gives the same answer to both. I survived. The rest is a knot of memory, fear, and maybe other people. Some will argue about what happened before the pit, about the ride that ended wrong. The Outback keeps its secrets the way it keeps water, deep and mean. Recovery is not a montage. It is learning to eat without pain, learning to sleep without hearing dingoes, learning to stand in a supermarket and not cry at the sight of 1,000 choices. He goes back to the highway months later, stands at the edge of the asphalt. The wind sounds like the first day again. Some stories want saints and villains. This one wants discipline, dig, sip, shade, repeat. He thanks the stockmen who found him, the nurses who kept him, the creek that held him. He keeps a tin can in a drawer like a trophy. On the worst nights, he hears the Outback breathe. On better ones, he just sleeps. Survival's final test isn't the desert. It's the ordinary day that follows. 71 days taught him the math of living. Water before pride. Shade before speed. Hope before despair. If you ever find yourself where the map runs out, remember the rules that built a home from branches and stubbornness. The desert doesn't bargain. It only listens. Speak to it with patience, and it sometimes speaks back. If you made it this far, you're one of the survivors. Subscribe to join us for the next true story.